Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar. And we've got a fabulous panel for you today. And we're going to be talking about the latest thinking on incentives and rebates. But I'm just going to go through a couple of quick housekeeping issues first. So if we can move on to the next slide. Just a reminder that this is part of the Channel Focus series of webinars, and Channel Focus this year will take place on the 14th and 15th of September 2022 at the fabulous Westin Carlsbad Resort and Spa in California. And if any of you want to get $250 off the best registration price, if you just click on that QR code on the screen at the moment, that will give you an additional $250 off. And I hope I'll see lots of you there. We have a great raft of speakers, fabulous topics. And as it's our 25th anniversary, some very, very special events as well. So the webinar today, please use the chat to basically ask any questions. We want this to be as interactive as possible. Want as many of you as possible getting involved in the discussion, the chat, etc. I'll pick up on questions being asked and fire them at our panelists. But do get involved, do comment, do chat, and let's make this a really, really interactive session. Thank you all. So I'm going to briefly introduce our speakers one by one. And I have to say, I'm going to start with Claudio, not because he's the only guy on the panel, but his last name happens to start with an A. So Claudio Ayub, he's the SVP and TMT lead for 360 Insights. He leads the technology, media, and telecom practice there. It's a business unit sought for advice, insights, counsel, and best practices on channel strategy, engagement, loyalty, and incentive automation trends. So he's an ideal person to take part in the panel. And outside of work, Claudio does some very cool stuff. He and his wife, Susie, are both founding members of Grove for Ghana, and that's a non-profit organization founded in 2013 that's brought over 50 water wells to communities in Ghana. So, Claudio, great job there. So, Claudio, you have a few seconds to tell us about 360.
Yep, thank you, Rod, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So 360 Insights is incentives automation. And incentives automation is a cloud-based software as a service solution serving the business to business and business to consumer channels in all industries. And when I talk about all industries, I'm talking about the technology, media, and telecom, which is a sector that I lead, but also the manufacturing world, the automotive world, and healthcare.
Excellent. Our next speaker is Kate Cadet, and she's the Channel Strategy Director at Spurs Reply. Kate leads a team of 20 consultants and managers committed to driving revenue acceleration and outcomes. She's worked for a wide-ranging partner and general go-to-market strategy with many, many Fortune 500 firms. She's worked on all sorts of issues, including program design, incentives management, forecasting, capacity planning, partner services strategy, and she has a passion for helping organizations adapt to and thrive in a shifting industry landscape. And when she's not hunkered down hiding from the rain in Seattle, Kate enjoys hiking and running. So Kate, tell us a little bit about Spur Reply.
You bet. Thank you, Rod. Welcome, everyone. Spur Reply is a go-to-market focused consulting firm that's based in the greater Seattle area. We're really focused on driving revenue acceleration for our clients, which is inclusive of Fortune 500 tech firms, as well as a number of dynamic growing tech firms as well. And we provide a full suite of services from channel strategy and automation to strategic content creation, business operations support, and data analytics and app development. We work collaboratively as one team to help ensure our client success.
Excellent. And our third panelist is Laura Cooling-Brash, and she's the AVP of Client Partnership with Ansira. She's the strategic partner to Ansira's technology clients, developing, implementing, and evolving their channel programs. She's got a passion for flipping the script on channel programs, applying traditional marketing tactics to drive engagement whilst providing optimal partner experience. And when she's not working with her clients, she enjoys spending time in the garden at home in Chicago. So Laura, give us a minute on Ansira.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. Thanks for having me today. I'm excited to talk all things incentives. So Ansira is a global marketing technology and services firm. So really coupling together that technology marketing stack and our services to bring those solutions to our clients. So we work with companies that operate in a distributed delivery model, and we help them drive performance through the channel incentive program management, local marketing activation, media ad technology, and CRM and loyalty. So a real wide suite of offerings that we're able to provide our clients.
Fabulous. And our fourth panelist is Cassie Fuhr, and Cassie is the AVP of Solutions Consulting at E2 Open. She has over 16 years experience supporting brands and helping them implement and manage partner incentive programs from Fortune 100 to niche local markets. She's worked on the vendor side in the capacity of services and operations, implementation, product management, and consulting. And she spends her free time, not that she'll have any, with 3 boys, playing all kinds of sports while her husband coaches. So Cassie, tell us a little bit about E2 Open.
Yeah, thanks, Rod. So E2 Open offers a full automated channel incentive platform. We are coupling that with both services and technology to ensure that we're helping with end-to-end planning with things like channel data management, rebates, MDF, really any flavor of incentives, co-op, other performance-based, and then marketing automation. So to, through, and with partner marketing. We do have a robust, unique data layer that includes over 420,000 trading partners. And these accounts are submitting things like POS, inventory data, subscription renewal data. And we are using that to drive and to inform the ongoing management and the structure of these programs.
Fabulous. And our last, but by no means least, panelist is Emily Renone, and she's the Global Client Director of Vistex. She's been enrolled with Vistex for 5 years, working across many existing clients and new implementations. I'm getting tongue-tied. She's focused on tech and the channel space for the last 10 years of her career, and she's a proud wife and mother to Harper and Lazaro, ages 7 and 4. So Emily, tell us a little bit about Vistex.
Thanks, Rod. Hi, everyone. So Vistex as a whole provides go-to-market software for an array of industries. I sit within the channel business unit for Vistex, and we provide software and services and support to manage all aspects of your partner program, including incentives, enablement, really anything having to do with your financials. We've been excited in the last year to be rolling out a new to our channel customers software called Go-to-Market Suite. GTMS is an end-to-end channel revenue management system. And at its core, it's really all about bringing data visualization to the forefront so that our customers can make the internal decisions more adequately that they need to be making, but also bring their partners and collaborate on, looking at the data and results together. So more to come on GTMS.
Fabulous. So let's get cracking. And as I say, everyone, do get into that chat section, do ask questions, do comment. So we're talking about the latest thinking on incentives and rebates. And Claudia, I'm going to come back to you to start. If there's one major change that you've seen in the last 2 years, what is it and what are people doing about it?
Yep, and I have to say that is the incentives automation technology that is available today to vendors in multiple industries, right? Today, you can actually deploy all incentives over a single platform and be able to do very different things that you couldn't really do in the past. Let me give you one example. Today, you can fund with MDF funds, rebates, and rewards programs. And that is very different.
Excellent. Okay. And same question to you, Kate. What's the single biggest trend that you've seen over the last couple of years?
Absolutely. It's hard to not mention the movement to cloud and SaaS and how that impacts incentives, because it's a fundamentally different means of engaging with customers where you're driving for full value realization just as much as you're trying to get that initial transaction in the door. You're shifting the way you're thinking about incentives and moving toward a much more holistic incentives portfolio. And we're seeing a lot of clients that we're working with making that shift just as they're moving their product portfolio too.
Okay. And the same question to Laura.
Yeah, Rod, I think this is a great question. I'm kind of going to piggyback off of what Claudio said is, you know, it's really focusing on simplification for partners. And I've been seeing with a lot of my clients is focusing on that partner experience and making it ease of use for those partners to use your incentives. So to what Claudia was saying, consolidating things through that marketing automation platform, but then also looking at that and going, how can we make this the best possible experience for our partners? And I know for a fact, you are all vying for the same partners to use your incentives and push your solutions and products. And so if we can ease some of that friction and really make it more of an enjoyable experience, that we're going to see that adoption and that use, and then ultimately that uptick in those sales from those partners. So I think that that heavy focus on partner experience in a lot of different facets and capacities is really where I see the companies and clients that I'm working with at the forefront doing, and then other people kind of coming in behind them and piggybacking on that.
Okay. And Cassie, if I can pick up on that for you, partner experience, give us some practical examples of the sort of things that people are doing to make that partner experience more engaging and easier for the partner.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's about personalization and tailoring these types of programs and the workflows and the use cases and just the navigation that a partner experiences in any automated platform, really making it special for them. It's not a one size fits all. We all know that, of course. But the personalization and even choices that a partner might have to leverage throughout your partner programs will be beneficial and drive adoptions. So I think what Claudio is mentioning is, you know, bringing all of these rebates, MDF, spiffs, all of this into one platform that also lends itself into something that does help the partner experience is choices. So for example, on a points-based program, if your partners are earning in points, they can go redeem that in a rewards catalog. They could go redeem that for co-op or MDF funds and put that back into the business and generate demand, or they can, you know, have a simple rebate payout, but it's their choice based on what they have been awarded. Okay.
And Kate, picking up on that, rebates. What trends are you seeing in terms of front end and back end rebates? What are you seeing happening?
Yeah, absolutely. Rebates continue to be really important for helping drive partner profitability and remain competitive, right? Those front end, you know, pieces need to be in place still to be able to win out on individual deals. And so those retain their importance. That being said, we're seeing a lot of clients rethinking the way that they're overall deploying their incentives portfolio and shifting more and more, you know, of their spending into what happens after the sale, right? And so, you know, some of that looks like a use of contractual DF. So now moving away from rebates and thinking to the investments portion, leveraging that to drive specific behaviors that are agreed on contractually and using more of a laser focus there.
Okay. And Emily, I'd like you to come in on this one. What are you seeing with your customers? Is it front end? Is it back end? Is it a mix of both? Is there a trend amongst the customer base you're dealing with?
Yeah, you know, I think that there is a focus on forward-looking revenue right now. what Kate mentioned before about, the evolution of SaaS and being able to incentivize, people that are offering software and subscriptions. And so I see a lot of customers right now saying, how can we rebate on multi-year subscriptions, for example? And what is that going to look like? And when does it get rebated? And do we, have an agreement on the front end and it lasts for 3 years? Is that manageable? How does that look? So, this multi-year structure is something that's relatively new to some of my clients, specifically who are maybe newer to their partner program. So, when the subscription monies are paid out by the end customer, that's when you get another chunk of your agreed upon rebate. So really these forward-looking revenues, looking at that as opposed to the basic one-time sale that we used to see and the backward-facing volume, looking at what's to come and what have we got in the pipeline and making sure that they can discuss that with their partner and making sure that it's stacked at all times so that the forward-facing revenue is what's at the top of mind.
Okay.
Yeah, Rod,
I'm getting some great questions coming in here, Claudio. So if I can ask you one of those,
okay.
what are the specific agreement elements that are replacing back-end rebates?
My goodness, I have a lot to say about rebate agreements. But I wanted to finish what Emily was saying. The big change in rebates, and I'll get into the rebate agreements right away, Rod, has been that, with the subscription consumption models, right, we are having to run rebates today on a consumption model, which is really different. Because now, you can drive MSP, business in that fashion, but you can also do other types of programs as well. But again, the consumption component is what's new. All right, and getting into the agreements. So simplification of agreements is really, really an important factor in partner experience. I think we've all seen these 16-page documents that vendors put out there as their rebate agreements that nobody reads. Right. So if I was going to make a recommendation is that simplify it down to half a page, because the other half of that page has to have a visualization, as Casey pointed out, right, that is going to tell that partner exactly what the objectives are, where they are against that objective, and what the accumulated rebate is. It's not about the 15, pages of legal terms and conditions and rules that you want to put out. You have to operationalize that in that user, in that partner experience. Again, half a page.
Okay. And let me bring Laura into this, if I may. I got a lovely question here. Are your software vendors flatlining their multi-year contracts, and how does this impact the partners?
Yeah, that's a great question. So from my experience, really our clients are taking those contracts and bringing them for the rebates and trying to simplify them, like Claudio was saying, and really providing that ease of use and visibility into what that contract is and what does that mean for the partner to obtain that rebate and get that incentive back, and then also providing that visibility of where they're at with those sales. So that's really where we're seeing from the contract perspective, having it all within the platform, all within a single location to be able to view that for those partners. So really getting that impact from that perspective.
Okay.
And can I, Rod, step in on that too?
Sure.
It's just, I think people are looking at, while long-term is something traditional and what a lot of, finance teams would desire, is that people don't want to be put into a contract when they don't know long-term, if they don't know that it's going to be mutually beneficial. So the simplification, the transparency into how they're going to benefit, all of that is amazing, but also making sure that it is aligning to not just the company or the brand's goals and objectives, but that it's also going to be mutually beneficial for the partner, where, partner planning comes into play, making sure that they're still, they're focused, laser focused on generating revenue, and that they're going to be able to do that by doing those same rebate goals, say performance-based, that you guys are putting out there.
Yeah, and along those same lines, Cassie, they do flatline, right? Whether it's an annual contract, biannual, or 36 month, you know, the practice out there that I'm seeing is flatlining that period and then paying a rebate on that amount.
Yeah.
Okay. And Emily, if I can bring you in, a lot of people have talked about simplification. Give us some examples of the ways that you can see and your clients are simplifying their programs to make it easier for the partners. Let's get real specific on this.
Yeah. So when I think of simplification, you know, I think it comes in different forms depending on the type of incentive that you're thinking about. When we look at MDF, a lot of simplification comes, you know, again, in those rules and guidelines and really in the POE and what you need to provide for the proof of execution on claiming. And I think that specifically for, you know, somebody, a partner that's using your MDF for the first time, if they have a bad or difficult experience, it's too difficult to jump through the hoops to get the POE in, then they might be a little bit more reluctant next time to fully utilize the funds that you're, you know, making available to them. So I think MDF is one thing. In rebates, you know, some people were alluding to it and saying, you know, I think that when there's too much muddying the rebate and it's not simple enough, then partners might be reluctant to even try and understand what it is that they need to do to get that rebate. And then you're just not even incenting the behavior. You're just giving them money for possibly making the mark. If there's too many accelerators, if there's too many, you know, thresholds on tiers, or the cap structure is really difficult to understand, or, you know, even too many exclusions, these can all be deterrents for partners to say, this is too much. I'm not even gonna focus on this. And then again, you're not incenting the behavior that you set out to do.
Okay. And Laura, everyone's got lots and lots of different kinds of partners. We're trying to simplify the program, but we're also trying to meet the needs of partners with very different business models, very different capabilities. What's some guidance you can give people in terms of building a program that takes those sorts of things into account?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it's always so hard to go, okay, I want to simplify this, but I also want to make it more personalized for my different partner types. And so a lot of times you think those are going to go head to head, but they don't necessarily have to. Where we look at how do we, you know, make it so that that program is beneficial and meaningful to all your different partner types is having a wide variety of incentive offerings to them, because you can look at that in a couple different ways. Is, you know, having a well-rounded program where you have those rebates for specific partners where they're going to earn at the partner organization level, having that go to those larger partners is what I'm trying to get at, allowing them to earn there. And you're going to have those rebate structures where, you know, a larger partner who sells your whole suite is going to get, you know, rebates on all the different offerings. And, you know, maybe you give them a kicker, but you might have another partner type that's only focused on solution A or solution B. And so incentivizing them there, but having it all consolidated underneath that one umbrella. So from that partner's perspective, it is simplified one promotion, but then there's some layers underneath it that offer that flexibility within that program. Additionally, I think from a partner type is, you know, having, you know, like I said, those offerings. So that's from a back end, a rebate perspective, but also having rewards. So if certain partner types are really focused on those individual sellers. So how do you get to them at that level and offer those offerings there? And so coupling those together can really be helpful to really make it flexible, but then having it streamlined at the same time.
Okay, I got a specific question for Emily. What is a consumption model? Can you give a specific example?
Of a consumption model?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a specific example at hand, but you know, when you think about your cloud-based solutions, and you're thinking about just increasing the consumption there, you know, obviously you can incent and build rebates around that. I don't know, was it Claudio that mentioned consumption models? So maybe you have more information. I don't have a specific example, but a lot of times with these consumption models, also there is a specific person that's sitting within the account, within the larger accounts, trying to get them to consume as much of this, cloud-based whatever that they're selling.
Yeah, Rod, if I may, because I did speak about that, and you were spot on, Emily, in that it is about the amount of gigabytes or terabytes consumed at any given time during a unique and specific period, right? And so now platforms have the ability to actually reward and rebate on those consumption levels. You can do that at the gigabyte, terabyte level. You can do it in different ways. It all depends on how you're transacting as a vendor with your customers, right? If you think about data backup, right, as a really easy example, or if you think about, supporting a website with cloud, you're going to get 50 million visits next week because you're launching a product, right? That backend for that one customer is going to have the ability to expand on demand, right? And so we can put rebate and incentives behind that. That's the consumption model, right? It works in different ways, even on a subscription program, right?
And for hardware and physical goods too, my device, my printer, my HP printer, I'm paying for consumption.
That's exactly right. $3 a month, right? I'm on that plan.
So let me bring Kate in for a second. There's an awful lot of debate, Kate, about points or rebates or both. I know what the vendors tend to prefer, but what do the partners prefer? How do you see that panning out?
Absolutely. So points are always a tricky thing, right? They can be an extremely great way of addressing a really broad partner ecosystem. So if you are a vendor who has a broad swath of partners, you're engaging with a lot of different types of partners who provide value in unique ways to your customers, points from the vendor perspective, to your point, Rod, can be a great way of providing kind of continuity across that. From the partner perspective, points are awesome if they're deployed correctly. And I think folks have touched on some of these themes, but it's got to be simple enough to use, right? A bunch of restrictions, points can only be traded in at this time for these specific things that partners don't actually care about. That will lead to quickly a terrible partner experience. So it's got to be simple and easy to understand without too many restrictions. You've got to be able to trade in those points for things that matter, right? And so, we've worked with some vendors who essentially had point systems where what, you could cash those in for were things that a whole subset of their partners didn't care about. And that, of course, led to massive issues. And then finally, you've got to have the right backend to make that happen. So you have to have your operations in a place where you can handle that on the back office side. We've had a number of customers that we've worked with as well who have said, hey, we want points because everybody's doing points. And operationally, they were not ready for it and tried to almost push out something too early before, calling us in and saying, hey, wait, is this actually going to work? So you've got to have your operations ready on day one. And there's a lot of awesome platforms, some of which are represented here to make that happen.
Excellent.
Yeah, I would add that it's, Rod, I would add that it's also about alignment, right? And I'm talking about what you asked originally, which is, rebates or individual rewards, right? And I think all of us on the call today have seen, large organizations, large vendor actually put out competing programs, right? Big brand, paying a rebate for that particular motion or sales motion, right? And then having a different program do the opposite. So you've got to really align your company level incentives with your individual level incentives, and doing, combined rebates and rewards do exactly that. You can tell a partner, hey, exceed your $2 million threshold here and I give you 2-3% rebate. But at the same time, you go down to the individual sellers and AEs and marketing people at the partner level and drive them towards those same sales motions. So alignment to me is really critical when it comes to rebates and rewards.
So Cassie, let me come on to you on this one. Partners, what do they want? Let's have a definitive answers. Do they prefer MDF? Do they prefer points, or do they prefer something else? What are the trends that you're seeing?
I think going back to my original point is they want the choice. They want to be able to reinvest that how they best desire, that meets the goals of their company. So, you know, I like the concept of points. I think to Kate's point, no pun intended, you know, you have to be set up for that to actually deliver and make a meaningful and actionable program with points. But it does give something of a value to a partner because they can take those and again, invest them back into their business with MDF, creating that demand generation. They can go out and get the money if they need that via rebate, say they just want an ACH or wire transfer, or say they need to actually incentivize an individual a seller in their group, then that person can go shopping in the rewards catalog. So I think the choice is the key there. And you know, so I don't see a trend one way or another with the partners and the programs that we're working with. It's the desire to have a choice.
And Laura, if I can bring you in for a second,
Yeah.
one of the things that we're seeing a lot is companies moving away from simply rewarding the transaction. They're beginning to reward behaviors, skill sets, competencies, etc. What are you seeing there?
I'm seeing the same thing, and I'm really seeing with my clients more going to that strategic approach to incentivizing their partners and going, okay, you know, we historically have been saying, hey, Mr. Partner, here's some money. Let's use an MDF program, for example. Here's some money, go do your thing. But they want now to drive behavior. So do they need Mr. Partner to go get some certifications, to drive, if they're a distributor, to drive the onboarding of new partners, or to you know, hit certain revenue targets. So I'm seeing a lot with my clients where from an MDF standpoint, we're still going to have that money where we say, okay, Mr. Partner, here's your money to go use it from a tactical standpoint if you have some events or other marketing tactics you need to do. But let's add this layer on where we're going to help plan together and say, all right, for this 6-month cadence or this year, we're really going to strategically do these things. And this is where we need you to go, Mr. Partner, but also the partner having a say in that as well, so that it's symbiotic and it's aligned, because if it's not, the partner's not going to want to do it. And then they're not going to use the funding. It's not going to go where you need everyone to go. So get them on that train, get them moving together, really using your PMMs, your DAMs, your field to help plan that out. And on that planning aspect of driving that behavior, I've seen, you know, some other clients where there's funding going not utilized, and it's because there's not that strategic plan that's happening between the vendor and that partner. So really that move to kind of altering and shifting how these incentive programs work to be a little more strategic to drive that. So having more MOU-based, milestone-based components to them.
Okay. And Emily, if I can just bring you in, there's a couple of comments here on who do you actually incentivize? And we've touched on this, but is it the company? Is it the individual? How do you deal with that? Should you offer both?
Certainly partners should be incentivized, resellers, and of course there's also distributor programs in many cases as well. And all of that has to be in place at, you know, with all the factors that we've been discussing involved. Partners have to be incentivized. I'm fully behind that. All of us are, because that's what we do. And I think that individuals should also be incentivized. I think that there's a certain way. I'm not a huge, I think cash is king. So when I look at incentivizing individuals, I think of cash and money, not even, you know, Visa cards. I'm thinking of cold hard cash, you know, via ACH into the account and as quick as possible. But I will say that I think incentivizing individuals, there has to be a really well-managed program behind that. There has to be a really focused marketing effort and consistent and persistent marketing effort to these individuals. Otherwise, again, you're just giving cash unbeknownst to them for driving that behavior. So you really have to work not just with your partners on the incentives and helping them understand what they're getting and why and how they'll get there, but the individual sellers as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and to just hit on that, Rod, I think it's really key because we got to look at it from our own perspective and from our companies. I mean, what incentivizes me as an individual? I want to be recognized for playing a role in that sale. So really incentivizing the individuals at your partner organization, you know, if that's the sales engineer, the sales rep, the whoever else may be helping to push that over the finish line to help drive your product and your solution and help push that. But then also at the organization level to get some money back to them for driving whatever that may be. And I think Emily hit on a great point of evangelizing that, of why they're doing it and what they're getting. And then also promoting, you know, what products or solutions you want to push out there that, hey, Mr. Partner, sales engineer, sell some more of this guy this quarter. You're going to get some extra points. It's going to be amazing. You can, you know, go, I don't know, purchase or redeem for X, Y, or Z, and making it very known to them what needs to be done and what you want to push from your company standpoint, but that's also going to be beneficial to them. I think that's a key theme of working together.
Okay. And Kate, one for you that's come in as a question from one of the audience. They'd love to hear some best practices for incentivizing influencers and referral partners. So thoughts on that one?
$1 million question. It's a really difficult one to be solved, to be completely honest, right? You always want to be able to track, you know, performance and measure that, and influence can be really difficult to measure. You know, however, we're always pushing folks to think beyond just the CFO hat of like, you know, E2B, you know, how much am I investing? How much am I getting an ROI? You know, that lends itself to resellers. When you're working with, say, SIs, you need to be able to acknowledge influence. So a lot of times we see, you know, companies moving toward trying to implement influence registration or, you know, services registration for partners who are non-transacting but providing services. And, you know, those can work out really effectively if structured well. And the thing to overcome is that can mean, from again, the CFO's perspective, double paying. And so then there's an evangelization that needs to happen internally to understand that in today's world, multiple partners are engaging on any given deal. And that's great. We actually want that because that drives the value realization for the customer, that drives long-term, you know, more consumption, more revenue growth, et cetera. So if you can overcome that hurdle internally and get the operational structures in place, then you can succeed with services and influence registration.
Yeah, and Rod, if I may add to what Kate's saying, you know, one of the best practices that I've seen very, very frequently in successful referral and influencer programs are really understanding your audience and then, you know, creating separate buckets to, you know, create programs specific to that audience. So what am I talking about? An influencer, you know, type partner is not going to want a reward, a cash reward, right? An influencer has different motivations, you know, for contributing to that particular vendor. And so recognition, intrinsic recognition is really important for that. Then you can go to bucket number 2, and then that's where the social influencers and referrals are. And those may be interested in some benefit or may not, right? But you're definitely going to have to create a different program for that. And then the third bucket is for your transactional, non-transacting partners, right? A referral partner, for example, he is going to want a fee for that particular referral. So think about, you know, the different motivators that, you know, influencers need when you build those programs. That's really a best practice. Don't think that all of them function and are motivated the same way.
Okay. And Cassie, I want to bring you in. We're getting towards the end. And one thing we haven't spoken about so far is the CFO is bearing down on you. You're spending all this money on rebates, MDF, all the other stuff. What am I getting for it? How do you measure this? What's best practice you've seen in measuring these kinds of programs?
Well, you've got to have data and you've got to have clean data. So you've got to be able to consolidate your data sources. It's going to be likely all over the place. You probably got it from your CRM, you know, other LMS programs, everywhere all this data is coming from. It needs to be cleansed so you can actually tell a story accurately. You don't want to go into CFO and have bad data, of course. But that starts with being able to report it as well and collect it on the things that you're incentivizing. So if you're incentivizing on things like customer assessments, deal registration, some of these more performance-based metrics, then you need to be able to bring that in. And then at the end of the day, actually say, this is an increase quarter over quarter, whatever it might be for that cadence that we're seeing. And here's what we've paid out. I think it has to be measurable. So you have to be able to do that. Now, some of it's going to be subjective. And I think that's okay too, as long as you have data for the majority and a quantitative rather measurement for the majority. But again, you're going to have subjective information on these. You're going to have things like even NPS ratings or partner satisfaction ratings and commentary over your program. And that's good information too. So, you should tackle it both ways, but don't go anywhere without data.
Emily, give us a deeper dive on measurements. What should we be measuring?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to mirror what Cassie was saying. I think that, one of the things that I'm seeing right now is a simplification of internally. We tend to look at these programs in isolation. They're siloed, and there's one here and there's one here and there's one here. And I've really seen across the board a simplification and a streamlining of bringing all your programs as much as you can into one place. That definitely starts with the data and making sure that there's one true data source. Is that Salesforce? Is that something else? Is it Marketo? What is it? But ensuring that you have that one true data source to pull from so that you can look at the programs holistically, so that the CFO can say, okay, let me see, this was deducted here, this was deducted from this program, this was deducted from this program, but overall we gained this in sales. I mean, I'm simplifying it, 100%, but that's the goal, is to be able to look at it holistically as opposed to onesie twosie and looking at programs in isolation.
Okay. And Laura, let me bring you in for a second. We're measuring it, we're reporting to the CFO, but too seldom are we actually measuring the partner's satisfaction with the program. This is the results we're driving, but are we asking enough? Hey, partners, is this actually meaningful for you? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's, I think, a great question. And ultimately, if the partner doesn't find value in whatever your program is, your incentives are, they're not going to use it. And like I mentioned this earlier, they're vying, multiple vendors are vying for that partner. And so how do you make that a best partner experience, but also know that, yeah, this is working, it is going great. So a couple different things that you can do, and that I've seen, we've worked with clients is, one, you can start with the classic partner survey. So making sure you actually do that. I have a couple clients that do that religiously, annually, some that don't. And I'm like, why aren't you doing that? You should be surveying your partners. It is the one simple way to get that feedback. So then you can really clearly see, yeah, your rebates or your terms and conditions are way too complicated. I don't know how to navigate this program. I gave up. I don't like it. So I think that's really key. Coupling that with, I've seen clients with the partner advisory board or whatever we're calling it at your organization. So who are those key partners that you have? Let's hear the feedback directly from them. Are they liking it? Are they not? Another way I think is using your field. So your PMMs, your PAMs, your DAMs, your CAMs, whoever they are, they have that special relationship with those partners. They're hearing the complaining, they're hearing the wins. So how can you leverage them to get some of that feedback? And then also, I think a really great way is to kind of look at your vendor level, your ecosystem. And, if you are sharing the same partners, talking to them, what are they doing? Okay, I'm vendor A talking to vendor B, are you hearing something with partners? Are you doing this? And kind of sharing those best practices. Of course, You might not want to do that with a competitor and share your trade secrets, but I think there is that opportunity with ecosystem partners to offer that. And then that also gives more of a consistent experience across your partners that you're working with. Because I guarantee as a vendor, you're probably participating in an incentive program. So what do you like about that incentive program that you're participating in? How can you then pull that down? So I think coupling all those together would be the best practice. But if there's one thing I would say you should do, it's that partner survey. It's an easy way, easy to implement thing to hear, is this going well?
And Rod, if I may add on top of what Laura just said, because you're spot on, Laura, we get the Net Promoter Score on every single interaction with partners. They sent a campaign funding request, and then they sent their claims, and we asked them. It's not a long survey, it's a one-question survey. Hey, did we do it fast enough? Hey, was it good for you? But we're doing that constantly. Again, every single interaction. And then we measure, track, measure, and report on it, just like Laura would explain.
And I just want to double down on her peer groups too. So whether you don't have to be competitors, but groups of like-minded people who are in similar roles getting together and understanding what's working and what's not, and what they like and don't like, that's going to help drive that up the chains to their program leaders as well.
Excellent. And we're almost out of time, so I'm going to ask a final question of everyone. We've talked a lot about what's going on. We've talked a little bit about the way things have changed. But Kate, if you look at this whole topic, rebates, incentives, where it's headed, what do you think are some of the interesting changes that are going to happen over the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah, you bet. So incentive strategies we talked about used to cater to that CFO, right? Prioritizing the ease of calculating ROI on incentive spend. But with today's macro industry trends that we're all, living through, we're seeing our clients broaden or even pivot their partner incentive strategy away from emphasis solely on landing that net new product purchase to increasing the overall customer lifetime value. We're going to continue to hear more about that. So today's leading incentive strategies are holistic. They're designed to accelerate influence, adoption, consumption, and retention through their partner ecosystem. And that means that incentives portfolios are going to continue to broaden, but they're also going to change focus. So we're going to see incentives money moving over toward driving that customer lifetime value.
Excellent. Emily, do you want to come in on that one? What do you see as the future? What changes do you see happening over the next couple of years?
Yeah, I think that we're going to continue to see this focus on forward-looking revenue, like I said earlier, as opposed to the basic one-time sale and the backward-facing volume. It's going to be the forward-looking revenue. So what do I have in my pipeline? Really making sure that the deal registration program is super solid to aid in all of that. Learning how to look at the data with your, being able to visualize the data with your partners, all of that. I think that we're going to just continue to see more and more of that.
Fabulous. And Cassie, thoughts?
100% agree with Kate on the lifetime value of a customer. That's why we're seeing life cycle incentives, as some have named them. So you're incentivizing more on those opportunities or those services. They're going to keep retention in check. So CSM functions, I think that's a big one people are incentivizing on. QBRs, more planning, more one-on-one and tailored messaging to your partners, because that will ultimately increase the end customer value. On the flip side, also the partner too. So partners want to generate revenue, of course, and the transparency into that and helping your partners find new routes to market, I think is also going to be a big. So focus on the customer and the partner very similarly.
Excellent. And Claudia?
I'm seeing a big move to points-based partner programs, and that really changes everything on the back end. I'm finding that a number of vendors who've decided to move to a points-based partner program see it as more equitable, right? It's a different way of treating all different types of partners as diverse business models as they may have, with a level playing field. And a points-based partner program provides that. Now, when you have that scenario, points-based partner program, your incentives are going to change. and you're going to be able to automate and do a number of things that you couldn't do before. And so that's going to have big implications when that move solidifies. I think everybody heard already about Microsoft making the big boom, but there is a number of other companies who have been doing it for a number of years, who are moving into it. I think it's the way of the future. Your metal tiers, they're gone.
Excellent. And Laura?
Yeah, I think, a lot of what we've already hit on, completely agree as the last one going up and answering this question. But, one thing that I'm seeing is that consolidation. And when I say consolidation of incentives, I mean bringing them all together under an umbrella. And that could be, where we have your rebates, your rewards, your MDF, your, any other incentives you might have in that streamlined place for partners to go to. I think historically, especially larger companies have had them more siloed and operating in that way, but they're starting to bring them all together as much as they can. And that's really where I think, this year, within the next 12 months, you're going to see more companies doing that and making it, ease of use for those partners. And then just to piggyback on that a little bit, that more strategic go-to-market strategy with your partners. So as opposed to just saying, thank you, Mr. Partner, for selling X, Y, or Z, but, and here's your cash, your payout, but being more coming to the table together and moving that needle forward. I think those are two key things that we'll be seeing.
Fabulous. We are pretty much out of time. In fact, we're about 10 minutes over time. So Claudio, Kate, Laura, Cassie, and Emily, thank you so much for some absolutely terrific insights. We've had a number of questions. We covered most of them, but there are a few that we haven't been able to get round to in the time. So I will be sending those out to all of our panelists who have told me that they will send us back their answers tomorrow, and we will then share them with everyone on the call. When we close, there's a survey coming up. We've talked about measuring things. We are very interested in your view on what we're doing. So please do take a few moments to answer the survey. But once again, Claudio, Kate, Laura, Cassie, and Emily, thank you for a fabulous session. Very, very much appreciate it.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you all.